Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Teresa Huffman. I am the outgoing industry partner chairperson, and I am also the industry partner liaison for the Southeast District. We're all so very glad that you're here this morning. We do not have any listings to market at the end of today's meeting, so stick around afterwards for some networking. Julie's going to split us up into some breakout rooms to do a little bit of networking afterwards. We're going to kick things off with our industry partner with Spotlight, and that is Steve Fega with Rocky Mountain Exteriors. Good morning, Steve. Do you want to take just a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you. Yes. Again, my name is Steve Fega, and I work with Rocky Mountain Exteriors. We're a Denver-based, locally owned and operated roofing, painting, and exteriors contractor. Excited to be part of DMAR. It's been a really great resource for me in these last couple months since I've been involved. And yeah, I was brought on to the company really to be the liaison between real estate agents, insurance agents, their clients, and our business, and make sure that we can provide really a streamlined point of contact. It's one of the things we hear a lot is, communication can be a struggle with contractors, with roofers. So they really wanted to double down and make sure that we could provide that white glove service that you guys have, as real estate agents, have worked so hard to build with your clients. And then we know that when it gets passed over to a contractor or a third party, that sometimes that white glove service that they've come to expect from you can fall off a little bit when it comes down to passing on to somebody that you refer to. So we really take pride in making sure that we're maintaining that level of service, that quality that they're expecting and have come to expect from you. And that's really what I do here, is to make sure that we maintain that level of customer service and attention to detail that you all pride yourself on. So again, our main bread and butter business is residential re-roofing, but we also do interior and exterior painting, gutters, siding, windows, and really all exterior trades. So yeah, I think we can be a really great and useful resource to real estate professionals. And I'll throw my contact info in the chat, and I'd love to get a chance to sit down with any of you real estate professionals and do a one-to-one and share a little bit more about what we can do and how we can be a resource for you all. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve. And he brought up a good point. Please put your contact information in the chat so that you can reach out with and network with each other. Next, I'd like to introduce Josh Mitchell. Josh is with Chase Bank. So Josh, go ahead and say a few things about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, good morning and happy Friday, everyone. I appreciate, as always, I appreciate the time being on this call. So I'm with Chase Bank. I've got 2 offices in the Cherry Creek area, providing home lending, residential home lending. And past few weeks, I've hit on our jumbo product, the 10%. We do a 10% and a 15% no mortgage insurance jumbo product. And I had mentioned in the past just how impactful that can be right now with these appraisal waivers, appraisal gaps, just having that extra cushion. But this week I want to talk about, I kind of want to hit on pairing that with what we call our 21-day purchase closing guarantee. Just like it sounds, and I know in the past, big banks, including Chase, we basically said years ago, we need 30 days minimum to close a loan. And now, within the past few years, we brought this product out saying, hey, we understand the market we're in. We understand that we need to get competitive on these closing deadlines. And so with this purchase closing guarantee, we're basically telling our buyers that if we don't close this on time, and we don't meet that deadline, if you've given us 21 days, we're going to provide you $2,500. And I can guarantee you that Chase is not in the industry of paying out $2,500. And so it's been a really fantastic program. Knock on wood, I've never had a client that we've had to pay out. And Chase has done a fantastic job with meeting these deadlines and sometimes getting clear to close well before the 21 days. So I will also provide my information. I've got a PDF and everything. I think it's a great way to position your offers. So if you're sending that to a listing broker and they're trying to make sure you're not just being foolishly ambitious with going with the 21-day close with Chase. We've got a PDF that we can send with our offers, and I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about that program. But I'll put that information, I'll put my information in the chat box, and good luck to everybody with your sellers and buyers this weekend too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you, Chase, for being an annual sponsor. So now we are going to introduce our panel that Nobu brought together for us today. And we have today with us Jessica Northrop. She's with the Northrop group at Compass. And Jessica has 23 years of Denver real estate experience, a proven track record of exceptional marketing, negotiating, and creating innovative solutions to meet her clients' buying and selling goals. She is one of the exclusive top 1% producing brokers in the Denver area, the #1 individual agent of Compass Denver closed volume in 2020, and has been recognized as a DMAR Excellence Awards Diamond Level producer. Jessica feels strongly about the importance of community and helping others. With each home that she sells, she contributes to building homes for families in need through the Give Back Home organizations, which I think is awesome. Spring Benson is joining us from Northern Utah. She owns a team with Real Brokerage. Her agents are producing over 450 transactions a year because they've become the type of people who produce at a high level. Real estate is their vehicle for personal growth and wealth. Their set of beliefs is their #1 asset, and nurturing this culture is her team's #1 investment. Recently featured in August Inman Connect article, How to Sell 450 Homes in 2021, Spring has all the awards that you would expect for someone in her position: 30 under 30, Real Trends, #1 team in her market, etc. But if you really want to know her success, talk to the people closest to her. You will see them all growing. And now I'm going to turn this over to Nobu. Nobu is our CEO, and he is going to run this panel discussion. Good morning, Nobu.
Morning. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you, DMAR. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Spring, for jumping on this panel. But I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. And DMAR, any of you guys in the Zoom, start putting your questions in the chat. I'll start asking these questions of them. But personally, we're going to run this gamut of people, of culture. Spring and Jessica both talked about it, of tech, of giving back. It's a really good time to really start reassessing business from this last year, start thinking about next year. And Spring, I know you're doing it. Jessica, I have a feeling you are as well. It's really kind of one of the hallmarks of folks who sell real estate at the top level here. So let's jump into it if you guys are cool with that. You guys cool? Jessica, Spring?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's talk about success, right? This is one of those years, last couple of years, where, I mean, you had to really screw it up not to have had a good year. And I mean that, right? I think you both can echo that. But there are folks who struggled, right? With change, struggled with all the things we had to do. But for you guys, success this year has been even more successful than in years past. What has been that one thing that led you to that next level this last year? Maybe year before that. Jessica, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, it's been an exciting year. It's been a lot of change for everyone. I think the big part of my success is the same thing that has made me successful in years past, is my network is my net worth. And so having a really strong network of not only my database, existing database, past clients, but also a network of agents across the country that I've kind of curated over the years. And as Colorado blew up as a place to be after COVID, those relationships really paid off for me this year. And with a lot of the people coming here, the new California, as I call it, thank you, California. You know, that was a big part of my success this year, is a network that I'd already built.
That's a really good point, right? Successful agents travel in packs, and it's not just relegated to the market. It's everywhere else. Spring, like, that's how we actually got to know each other. Like, well, I was doing the math last night. Like, we've known each other for over 10 years at this point. Yeah, it's been nuts. Yeah. What about you? I know, your sphere is massive, but what has been the leader of your success this last couple of years?
Yeah, so I would say ours is a little different just because I own a large team, right? And so ours came down to more of like, I know this sounds hyperbole or kind of crazy, but of a mindset shift, because we have all the lead generation, like we're very heavy in lead generation and in our market. But when everything started happening, it was like, okay, we have all of this, so I have to keep my agent's head on straight of like, this isn't the world crumbling or whatever. And so we just dialed down on high accountability, getting in that space of like, I have been in the market when it crashed. I think a lot of us here probably have. And so I knew like what was happening at the time, that a market doesn't define your success. And so that's why I really started hitting on. And then because we were so purposeful, everything has exploded and the market's exploded and it's been great. But our big success is that we haven't changed anything lead gen wise. We just started really getting hyper focused. And really, honestly, we've got hyper focused on listings. Listings has been the name they gave in my market. So.
Wow, this is going to be a good conversation then. So almost sphere based, Jessica, with the way you work, expanding that sphere, and really kind of sphere and business building. Spring, from your perspective, I know you're a nerd on the tech stuff. It's fascinating watching you guys work, and we'll talk about that today. Were there any surprises for either of you over the last couple of years on like, oh wait, this doesn't work, or this I've been doing this for a while and I don't need to do it anymore? Any surprises for you, Spring?
Not necessarily. I mean, we were always very heavy buyer based. Like you said, I'm kind of a tech nerd. I have every lead generation system for a team. And, but what was happening in my particular market was offers. We had multiple offers, I'm sure, same as yours, that we would be showing. And sometimes you'd go 100, 200 grand over off list price. And so the biggest thing for me, like I said, is we had to pivot instead of being like, hey, we're so heavy on this buyer market that we have to go more towards a listing, because we know if we get a listing, it'll go under contract like that. But if we have a buyer, we're making multiple offers generally. So that was probably the biggest differentiator for us of like, this is where we have to figure this out.
Interesting. So buyer lead gen to come with seller lead gen mindset. I want to dig deeper into that. Jessica, what about you? Any surprises for you?
I think the biggest surprise for me, to some degree, has been the very, very low and consistently low level of inventory that we've had in the Denver metro area. We haven't seen anything like that ever. So having such a low inventory, and then even more surprising is the luxury sector being blowing up like it has. And then, you know, it used to be kind of special to sell a $3.5 million home in the Denver metro area. And now we're looking for those homes. Does anyone have anything coming at $4.5 million, $4 million? So that's been a big surprise, I think, in our market, and a big shift in the buyer pool that we have.
I'm going to hit on that. I'm going to agree. I am shocked at how much cash is out there too. I'm like, where are all these people getting their money? You know, so I'm in agreement on that.
So, so let's talk about that real quick then, right? So that, I think that's been a surprise to a lot of folks. Money in general has been very cheap in real estate for a while, right? And it's only gotten cheaper over the last, 4 or 5 years, and especially now with the pandemic and stuff. Are there any trends that you're seeing? You guys both do mid-range all the way up to that high end. Are you seeing any trends with that? Are these folks coming from wealth management folks? Are they looking for investments? Are they scouring the internet? Or what trends are you guys seeing? This wasn't in one of your questions, but it intrigued me.
I go back to hashtag California. Thank you, California. I think we had a lot of people moving from California that have already been operating in this type of market for many years. So they've been in hyper competitive markets. They haven't been able to buy. There's been multiple offers, and they coming in, they're already saying immediately, do I have to go 100 or 200 over? That's different than Denver. Do we go 25 over? Do we go, their increments, where a lot of these out of state, not just California, but different out of state buyers, they just came in and were like, we're taking it. Like, boom, like we'll take it with cash, well over anything that's ever been proven.
Yeah, it's been an interesting last couple of years in that. Spring. You have some to add?
Yeah, I would say same thing. So our MLS just posted actually where our traffic's coming from, and 40% of it is coming from California home searching. So exact same as what she's saying. I think the one thing I'm surprised at too is how much, like I said, on the cash. One thing we're seeing is pretty much everything is coming in without any contingencies, they have their appraisal waivers, they're paying cash, and they're putting money up without even having an inspection done. And that to me, like doesn't necessarily feel right because you don't know, but that is how you're winning the house at this point.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Let's talk about that real quickly. So both of you guys have big spheres, right? Like Spring, we know each other through 30 under 30, YPN, all that other stuff. Jessica through this luxury kind of sphere. How would you build your sphere if you wanted to go and be intentional about building your kind of elite agent sphere outside of the Denver market? How would you do that now, given the pandemic? You don't have a lot of real estate shows happening. I think Inman's the real next one. How would you build your sphere if you were to do it now?
Actually, I can answer that really easily and very, very quickly. And I have to give a shout out to our company Compass because we're wholly connected. I'm connected to 25,000 agents across the country, and top agents are super easy to find. It's not little franchises everywhere. We're wholly connected. We have a workplace where I can go on and find who's the top agent in San Antonio, who's the top agent in Miami. We've also had, which has been with the pandemic a little bit off and on, but retreats where you go, you meet these people, just like events that you guys have met at, and stay in contact. And with those people, we know they're top agents and they pay you back. It's a reciprocal thing, not only from a referral standpoint, but also from a, sharing ideas, masterminding, all those sort of things.
So it goes actually beyond like that referral business. It does like idea sharing. I've seen a lot of masterminds on that.
Right.
So like it's now time to really kind of break down those barriers, even with territories, even if you're in your own market. It's been an interesting last couple of years for that as well. I've seen a lot of that. Spring, thoughts on building your sphere?
Yeah, so same thing. So I'm part of a virtual brokerage as well. We have our workplace, all of that. One thing that I've done, I feel like, is throughout the years, and I know if you're asking if you're new, but the key is that when you're going, don't be the person in the corner, raise your hand even if you're on the Zoom, put some questions in the chat, but be making sure that you're creating those relationships. And then a way to stay in touch. So there's some agents that, and I have one of these as well, that twice a month an email goes out if you're in my network that I'm just providing value, that something I've seen in the marketplace or a tip or trick. And then it just creates that community. And so I actually have, might sound crazy, I have a completely separate database for my agent relationships that we market with. We invite them to events. Like I do a lot of events. That I have one coming up next month that have agents from all over the country flying in. So I'm just really purposeful about creating those relationships with the people that I want to network.
Interesting.
How can I get an invite?
I'll drop it in the chat, girl.
All right, you drop it in the chat, Spring. Everybody and their mother is going to be joining as well. So
it's great. It's great. I'm all about it. Like we actually do like a once every 2 weeks. We do a mastermind call. It's free. Anybody can jump on it with some of my partners. It's fun. So yeah.
I mean, I say there's been no less than a dozen masterminds that I've seen on that note. So guys, go out there, do it amongst yourselves, in your brokerages, amongst your sphere. Even bring in people like your industry partners, your mortgage people, title people is really good people to do that. Spring, real quickly about this pivot, right? So you went from heavy buyer end to seller end. I think everyone is thinking if you got the listings, you're going to get the business, right? So how do you pivot from that buyer mentality to the seller centric mentality?
So it was a full effort on every aspect. So it started obviously with that mindset component, like I talked about, that we just started identifying that we were listing agents. So I went there. Then we started doing a lot of training on the listing side, everything from how to prospect, take the appointment. I mean, we did full on like a 12-week course that we recycled now 3 times this year. On the lead generation component, we used PropStream and Remine to pull the data. So I could pull the likely to sell lists. And so we would target them. So we had people prospecting if they would take a cash offer on their home. nobody cares about if inventory is low. Like, this is real estate lingo, right? But they would be interested in a cash offer or selling their home. So we put together a marketing campaign around if they would take a cash offer in their home, as well as be interested in looking at the value. We have callers calling, asking. We also put together, every time we would do an open house, we do a full open house strategy of the door knocking and the calling around it. And that was massive for us to get listings. I mean, we really went hyper focused on, cool, the buyers will come. We don't have any issue with getting buyer traffic, but what do we have to do to get the listings? And then we went very heavy on our past clients of if that they have equity in their home, would they be interested in doing a move up home, getting into something that's more long-term at a low rate. And so we really hit heavily on how much equity. I mean, in my market, homes have gone up 40% this year. So there's a lot of appreciation, even in just the last 2 years of somebody who's bought. So there's more to it, but we just went with like, okay, you're no longer, I don't want to say an order taker, because that's not, I don't believe that about agents or a buyer's agent, but it is a little easier to be a buyer's agent than to be like a fiduciary listing agent that's going. So we just put a lot of focus around it.
Well, so you're using PropStream, you're using Remind to kind of find the initial data,
yeah,
build campaigns around that are really customized to what those people are looking for, or
yep,
maybe the equity that they have,
yep,
and then going really deep then with your previous sphere. Yeah, I think, you know, I talked to my neighbors here in Denver they've been here for 5 years, and they're like, where do we go now, right? That
yeah,
exit strategy that you have given your sellers is a really good way to dredge up those listings.
Yeah, one thing that I did, I think anybody could do, or it didn't cost money, was we did pull from the Remind PropStream the likely to sell, all the categories that I wanted to pull. And then we sent them a direct mail for a virtual home seller workshop. And we've done this consistently. And we also have targeted them on Facebook with it. And it basically was a home seller workshop online, just like this, that I would walk them through the market. It's kind of like an online listing presentation, but more towards just being very informative, like what staging will do, where the market's at, how home appreciations, just everything. And that was a great way to scale and do a large, like a listing presentation for an audience. And we did them every 2 weeks. So that's another thing that people could do.
Yeah, consistency is huge too with those virtual showings. And my wife just recently did one with a wealth management company here,
yeah, talking
about 1031 exchange and all. So there's a wealth within the real estate, and then on the periphery, mortgage people, title people as well. So you got a lot of that. Jessica, so going over you do a lot of listings, do a lot of business on that listing side. How do you differentiate, right? Because here, sure, there's been a lot of folks who've been like, well, people that may not want that white glove service, and I've never seen a market where that isn't the case. So what's your strategy for listings?
Well, first off, I'm taking notes on everything that Spring is saying. So hopefully everyone else is also. You know, I feel like I'm a really strong listing agent, but I think the key is, to Spring's point, is generating those sellers and making them comfortable with where the market is. We basically, you know, I'm myself and a small team of admins. We really just have done a deep dive into our own database. We do a lot, everything is relational. So that hasn't changed. That's how I've always operated my business, but being able to deep dive into actually making those calls and helping them understand where the market is, how, if they did want to sell, what are some of the options. Even sellers are still a little bit surprised even about our rent back situation. You know, a lot of times in Colorado, we'll have a 30, 60 day post occupancy that gives them a little bit of leeway to find a replacement property. And kind of just some of the same things that Spring has done with likely to sell. We have HomeBot. I'm sure a lot of lenders who partner with their agents have HomeBot. So those are some other tools that we utilize.
Yeah, Remind, guys, by the way, is baked in RA Colorado. It's one of the more underutilized services within RA Colorado. So we'll really dig deep into that. PropStream, HomeBot is a Denver company. Ernie is based here. So you've got a lot of homegrown companies that can do a lot of things. So thank you for all that. I think the listing stuff is just intriguing now, just because I think most sellers can think that they just put their put a sign on the ground and get it sold. But, you know, talking with you, doing deeper dives and dredging up that data really kind of shows that they can actually make more if they talk to an agent. Were there any lessons that you guys learned in your pivot spring, like when you went from buy side to the sell side? Any like, crap, I am never doing that ever again kind of thing?
You know, I don't know about pivoting that I'm never doing that. I mean, I think that from a team owner perspective, I personally should have been focusing more on the listing side from the very beginning. The buyer side was just easier. So now that has been a big pivot for us. I think the other big thing that I've kind of learned over the last couple of years is that the market's hot. We're making a lot of money. And it's really easy to get fat in our expenses to just keep on adding. And so when everything shifted, we went back and just looked at absolutely everything because nobody knew what was going to happen, right? And this feels like forever ago, by the way, but it was just last year. And we just cut every expense, and it's crazy to see how much you can do with less. And so I think that the biggest thing for me, the lesson is just is actually monitoring my expenses more, which I know is not typical like buyer seller, but as a business owner, I would challenge all of you guys, because you all have expenses if you're a solo agent or not, to really look at like what you're spending on and if you're actually utilizing it, because there's a lot of times you're not.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's a good one. What did you cut that like most agents are wasting their money on?
Oh man, I cut a lot of things. So I went through like line by line of just even subscriptions on my iPhone, you guys, that I'm like, oh, annual renewal. Like I didn't realize that it was, but I really went in and analyzed some of our lead sources that were generating a few leads, but not necessarily with the ROI. I mean, I just went hyper into every single expense down to where we can consolidate. Renegotiating leases, like we went and just got crazy. We canceled credit cards so that we had to go back in and renew if we wanted to on expenses. I just would challenge you guys all, because like I said, we all do it on every aspect of our lives. Like even if it's not in your real estate, go in and see where you can trim the fat, because it's just so easy to spend when the real estate market's where it's at.
My God, death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cut some of that stuff out. Jessica, what about you? Any lessons over the last year or so?
Sure. Two that come to mind, and I kind of pivoted more from listing back to buyers. So opposite a little bit. And I would say, my hashtag is chop, chop, move quickly. So I've always moved quickly, but really being able to educate buyers up front that we are going to move quickly, helping them understand the contract, that we are going to move quickly. We're going to secure the deal. I'm going to keep you protected, but we have to process information very, very quickly. So just being kind of shifting into that, and maybe doing a lot more upfront work with buyers, going through contracts prior to writing, helping them understand what's going to come down the pipe, in the next 10 days, and then we close. So doing that very, very quickly is one. And then two, I think just for all of us on this call is, everyone is doing a lot of business. Everyone's moving quickly, but treat other agents with respect, and the respect that you would want in return. So we're all in this together. We're all on both sides. So return the calls, acknowledge offers, and just treat people the way that you're going to want to be treated.
Yeah, being professional is a thing, guys. It stands out in a time when everyone seems to be hustling. Right. It always has been a thing, but even more so now. You mentioned something interesting about setting buyer and seller, it's client expectations, Jessica, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of clients who'd be like, well, I've never been told I needed to do X, Y, and Z before. Everybody's just rushing to get into homes right now. How have you set expectations with your clients?
Lengthy conversations. Lengthy conversations. And also I always say, it's easy for me to tell you this information, but let me put the data behind it. So this is where you're looking for a home. This is the price range. Let's do a one-line list out of RE Colorado that says, this is your list to sell ratio. This is days on market. I've even showed them my own contracts. I think my dad's never heard of a post occupancy. Why would it be free? Why are they living in the house that I own? Hey, all fair questions, but these are the this is what we're living with right now. And to be competitive, you have to accept it, or this isn't the time for you to be in this market.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
I love that.
Spring, yeah, same thing in your market too. People are just going nuts right now for housing and need a little bit of confidence, right? Any client expectation setting tips that you can share?
Yeah, so we're in the same boat. So I've talked about we're doing a lot of listings, but how our business has doubled is we've added listings, and then we're very heavy on buyers right now as well, because it has lightened up, meaning we actually have some inventory. And so you can get a home accepted. So we are doing the exact same thing of, we call it a buyer consultation, and we will walk them through the whole process of exactly what she said, from what's going to be expected on earnest money. We're actually even having them sign a form if they're going non-refundable earnest money, a liability form, just because we've had a few instances. But we're going down to even explaining the home inspection, showing them what a home inspection looks like. So when they see that it's 40 pages, well, really, like this 40-page one, I'm showing you an example, had honeydews. So when you see yours, don't be freaked out, to setting the expectations of the occupancy, absolutely everything. So that's going to be the key to getting any offer accepted too, is that your clients aren't wasting your time writing crappy offers, because there's a lot of buyers right now that just can't buy in my market. So those are some hard conversations too, of like, hey, this probably isn't the right time for you, or yes, your budget would have got you a home before, but it's not today. So we've had to get very purposeful of A, understanding who we're working with, B, setting those proper expectations. And then the other thing I'll hit on that Jessica said too, like the professionalism, but the relationships go a long way. And communicating goes a long way. I'm not sure if your guys' market is the same, but when it's hot, we get a lot of new agents coming in, and which is fantastic. I'm a fan. But if they haven't done transactions and understand how to communicate, it's one of those where it just can get frustrating. So I would just challenge everybody, like, communicate with the other agents. And I can't tell you how many offers I'll receive, and they don't even send anything. They just send an email. I'm like, how in the world do you think you're going to get your offer accepted if you're not even calling or texting me or having a conversation? And I see that probably on half of them. So over communication with the agents, I think, is crucial as well.
Yeah, and you guys are really talking about a lot of folks would telling a client it may not be a good time for you. Talking to an agent, this is a crappy way to deliver an offer. Here's how to do it better. I mean, these are a lot of obstacles that we need to really kind of get better at. And what I've been finding, Spring, I know we've talked about this a lot, right? And Jessica, I know you're part of this too. It's like, how do you deal with things like this? How do you get? And let's talk about the client first, right?
Yeah.
You have a client that's been priced out. May not be the time. You got to have that hard conversation with them. Maybe it is time to look in that 6 month to another year lease. At the very least, you have housing set for a set period of time. So how do you tell them that? And then how do you keep up with them? Because I think this is going to be an issue even now over the next couple of years, that folks are going to continue to be outbid. What do you do with those folks? How do you have that conversation? And what do you do to keep you top of mind with them? So Jessica, you want to start?
I'm sure. I would say that very, very few times I believe it's a time to wait. So I don't have that conversation very often, but it's basically what's expensive today is the comp of tomorrow. And yes, we're in an increasing market, but what's very unique about Colorado, and I believe also Springs market, is it's still going up. So we're nowhere near a balanced market. Now is the time to buy. But if they just, whatever, maybe it is a down payment, or just mentally they're not there. I mean, yes, I would definitely somebody to have down payment. Let's keep them in database, weekly calls. I mean, the whole thing. We have our email, we have all of our systems. We're always going to keep in contact with them. You have to have a very good lender who's also doing the same thing. I put part of that on the lender to keep that kind of situation going and making sure they understand all of their options. I again would say, if they're not ready to buy today, they're probably not going to be ready to buy in 6 months to a year. There are definitely some certain situations, but the biggest sector you're going to have are people who just can't get over, like, I'm not going to compete. then you're not going to be in this market. And they usually start off saying that. And then as you educate them, then they want to win and they'll figure out a way to win. So
it's actually a good point to really kind of think about that down payment. If they've got the cash, then actually that does set them ahead. Maybe they just need to concede more things on their list, buy a smaller home, or expand the area. Spring, thoughts?
Yeah, so we might be in a little different situation. So I agree with her 1000%. Like there's never the time, like you want to buy now, do not wait. However, like in Utah, we have a very young population, a lot of first-time home buyers. I think 40% of our home buyers are first-time home buyers. And I mean, our average price point just got to 400,000. I mean, like a year or two ago, it was 250,000. So when I talk about that, it might not be the right time. We have a lot of first-time home buyers that think that they just don't understand the market and think that they're going to get into a home and they can't qualify. So we do have to have those hard conversations. And a lot of times it's based off of just showing them the facts. Hey, you want to be in Salt Lake City, Utah in this area. Well, that's 600,000. If you're qualified up to 250 or 300, it's going to get you this over here. Do you want to be in this area? And so it's more or less a conversation we have a lot, quite frankly, because we get leads coming in that are qualified for 0 down. Like we have a product that's called Utah Housing, which there's a 0 down first-time home buyer, and it's just not going to fly in today's market.
Wow, that's I never really thought about it from that perspective, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other resources that you can bring in to kind of help people bring in to top of mind. I think they need to make that decision for themselves, and if you facilitate that, that's even better. Setting those client expectations really what really helps with that. Guys, we're about halfway through this. If you want to put some questions into the chat there, I'm happy to ask them, because we're going to start getting into the kind of the nerdy aspects of this stuff in a minute here. I love talking systems and processes and tech, so you better start kind of at least whipping out the pencil, start writing your notes here. So let's talk about systems and processes, right? So you both have hinted at this, whether you're lead buying or you're accessing the sphere, and using that sphere to add on to your business model. Let's kind of, before we even talk about this stuff, there's a lot of obstacles with folks, right? Fear of loss for a lot of realtors drives how they think, how they act, and how they reach out to clients. So before we even talk about systems and processes, I'm an agent, whether I've been in it for a year, 5 years, or 20 years. I want to do something new. I want to start spending X amount of dollars on leads. What is the biggest obstacle? And Spring, maybe you can answer that from the lead gen perspective. What's the biggest obstacle that people have, other than like, oh man, I can't do this, I can't afford it? It's a mindset, they don't want to change. What is that biggest obstacle that you've seen, and how have you seen the agents that you're kind of having firsthand input with?
Yeah.
How are they getting over that?
So I think the biggest problem with like the online lead generation space is, first of all, there's not a lack of leads. Like there's plenty of leads, you can get them from wherever. So lead gen is not the issue. If you look at the stats, there's about 125 million online leads sold a year. And there's about there's 5 million homes across the US average sold. So that lead is sold 25 different times. So where a lot of people fail in the online lead space is that they don't understand what type of lead they're purchasing, whether they're purchasing a top of the funnel or the bottom of the funnel lead, which means their conversion time. And I'm kind of getting nerdy here, but this is important. So there's different types of leads. Like if you're going to buy an internet lead that's like an AdWord lead, which is like, hey, they're searching Colorado homes. Well, somebody's usually just kind of starting to think about it. And so it's usually a 6 to 18 month conversion from when they come in to them actually buying. So the biggest thing I see is agents aren't willing to put in the systems or the follow-up to build that relationship to get them over that line. So they think that they're crappy, right? If you're going to do a Zillow lead, Zillow in my market, it works, but they're expensive. They're at top of the funnel. They've actually like hit and click, they want to see a house. But you have to, even Zillow will say more than only 40% of the time, a lead will be followed up with one time. Not even only 40% of the time they actually get called their first time. And so it's like they're spending $300+ on a lead and not even calling. So I would just say, if you're going to do something, you have to commit to the follow-up. You have to commit to the speed or the lead. And you also have to know which one you're wanting to do. Like, are you wanting to go less expensive and have that nurture in place? Or are you going to go for more of the higher dollar, but know that you've got to work it and get the conversion there?
Yeah, really good point. It's really analyzing your funnel.
Yes.
That's a really big lesson. Think about where that spend is going to be and where it is going to be in that funnel. So your systems and process is going to judge. That's a really good point.
Well, I think too, so, I mean, I can't tell you how many people will come in and they'll be like, I'll bring in a new agent and they'll be like, hey, I went to put in my friend and they're already in your system. Well, yes, because they've looked at homes online and we've captured them at some point. So I think one of the things as realtors just kind of forget, like, your consumers are out there searching. Like, so you have to do a great job following up with them and building that relationship, that you don't want somebody like us coming in and creating that value. But I would say, if you're going to get in the lead space and you have a little bit of money, I would tell you to go for one that's going to convert faster, so you can see that ROI and you're not having that crazy nurture sequence. The nurture sequence comes into play if you have, like I said, an ISA or a team that's going to do it. But for an average agent that's like, I don't know enough people to create the income I want to create, so I'm going to go online and create this, go for something that you're going to get you're going to get less leads, but a higher conversion ratio.
Are you going to have this little conversation in your get together?
Do it.
I want to go to that.
Okay.
Jessica, thoughts on you? Like, you've seen it here. Like, you're in this market. You see the mistakes made every day. What are the obstacles that folks are seeing that are just kind of made up, and how can they get through it?
Sure. I think it's great that you have both Spring and I, because we're a little bit opposite, where I have never paid for a lead. So everything that I do is relationally based and also referral based. And the point that I'm going to make here is, and that's okay. So I think where agents make a mistake, or their obstacle is this: they try to copy someone else and do it their way, or do what that person. I'm going to do what that person is doing because they appear to be successful. And I think what you have to figure out first is, how do I do business? You know, what is my why? How do I want to do business? What am I going to be good at? I'm terrible at open houses. I don't know that I would follow up on the leads. If I got calls, I'd probably be like, oh, well, I'm at a soccer game, so that's not going to be what I'm good at. So, and I think in my career over the last 20 years, the first 10 years was copying other people and doing it their way. And it was not enjoyable. I had a level of success, but it wasn't fun. And it wasn't at the level that I am now. And I kind of, as I parlayed into these last 10 years, it became, if I'm going to, after, 2008, 9, 10, things were not happy in Denver real estate. And if I'm going to kind of reboot and start over in a way, I'm going to do it my way. And it's going to be more fun. It's not always fun, but more fun, and with the people that I want to work with. And that's how I have built my business, kind of with that reboot after the downturn for the last 10 years, is through relations, through referrals, through tracking, where you're going to talk to, and see things done on a technical. Mine is like, I have a piece of paper, greatness tracker. And I do input this into in a system, but every week, I'm going to make this many calls. I'm going to send this many notes. I'm going to have this many face-to-face meetings. That's how I have built my business, and it's worked for me. And that is how and that's what's worked for her. So I think everyone finding what does work for you is the very first key to starting to build a successful business.
Oh God, I mean, you nailed it. Ripping off and duplicating is exhausting. Mm-hmm. It is the most exhausting because it's inauthentic, right? Mm-hmm. And being inauthentic is doubly exhausting when you're kind of faking. Really, at this point too, faking fakers, because there's a lot of BS in this industry as well, right? Because there's a lot of made up numbers and made up stats that frankly just don't matter, that people are being. So really good point. I would want to say one more thing on that is, once you find your why, then you decide how you're going to do business your way. The other, I think, big key is coaching. So being accountable to a coach, a mentor, a group on a weekly basis. I think that's another, really, people miss out on that, or they don't want to invest in that. Or they don't want to spend the money, the time, whatever it is. But accountability with a coach or a mentor on a weekly basis is also a big key.
And that'll help with the mental part, the obstacles, talking things through.
Really good. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be. Spring, go ahead.
I wanted to say something. So I'm going to reiterate what Jessica said. So we actually, the way that I look at our business is we run an interdependent model. So I actually really heavily, like more than 60% of our business comes from our agent sphere, because we do have them focused on that. I just know from a team owner perspective, like the value that we add is that coaching, the accountability, the mentoring, and as well as like, hey, let's give them the additional lead sources on top of what their SOI is. So when we bring on an agent, we actually, to reiterate what she said, I actually have them be like, hey, what works for Jace over here might not work for you. And what works for you might not work for them. So we need to figure out how you're going to get your business. So we'll spend the first 45 days having them like do open houses, having them on the call, having them do different lead sources to figure out where their sweet spots are. And then we hone it in on 4 different lead sources that we have them focus on. Because I know some people, if I had them calling first sell by owners, not that that's the thing right now, or expireds, first sell by owners are, but they would hate it and get out of the business today. So I would challenge you guys for sure. Like I would try it all and see what you like, but your sphere is going to be your #1 source of business, of actually having some repeat and that relationship and stuff.
Really good point. Jessica, did you want to add something to that?
I'm just, no, no, I'm just agreeing.
Yeah. SOI marketing, you start with that. Whether you have 5 people, 50 people, 5,000 people, you got to start with that and then build your business around that, because those are the people that you're going to end up attracting more of, right? Their friends, their family. I think we overcomplicate this business a lot in general. But let's talk about tools real quick. So let's get kind of nerdy. Spring, so you're very lead gen. You got a lead gen focus. What does that look like? You know, if I'm going into your ecosystem as a lead, maybe I'm not ready for an immediate buy or sell. What does that look like? What am I getting into? Like, am I on a blog, email drip? What tools are you using to kind of keep me on your hook and ready to go when I'm ready to go?
Yeah, so it depends on how you're coming into my world, but generally speaking, if you're coming in as an SOI, you're going to go on an email drip campaign, a direct mail campaign, and as well as we do events. So that's like if you're somebody's sphere. So if when you onboard, you have to come with 200 people that you're going to put into your SOI. And we have them spend their first week coming up with that and going through their Facebook of who they want to market to. So that's on the SOI component. If you're an internet lead coming through the system, you're going to go to my ISA department. We have an inside sales team that will take the lead and nurture it and build that relationship to when it's time to turn it over to an agent for an appointment. The reason it hasn't always been that way, but we have just decided that agents want now business, and they're not going to generally come in and nurture somebody for 18 months. And so we've hired on salary their agents, we've got them licensed, but more of a customer service role, providing the value, getting them on their e-alerts, listening to what they're saying, and then we'll do the follow-ups based off of that. They get invited to our events. There's text campaigns that are automated that can trigger. We can see when people are on the site looking at certain homes, as well as when they favorite them. So it's a full-on campaign based around building that relationship. A lot of our transactions right now are coming from the database that have been nurtured. So a nurtured relationship that they're now ready. Last but not least, I will say, if you're a new lead coming into the system, speed to lead is absolutely crucial. So if you have to call within 5 minutes, because people move on. So we'll get a few of them that will be immediate, but generally speaking, it's text, email, direct mail. We don't do direct mail till they're further into the funnel. And then same with the inviting them to our events. We don't invite them to the events till they're like further into the funnel as well.
What kind of information are you putting into those email drips?
It just depends. So it depends. So we have them for different types and sequences. So the #1 thing I would tell you guys is to get them on, we call them e-alerts, but get them on property searches, because they'll actually open them and look at them. I mean, real estate is one of those things that's boring unless you're buying or selling a home and then you care about it. So to get an email from me every 2 weeks about real estate, if it's not something you're actively doing, you don't care. So if they're in one of those longer sequence, we have it more of community information. So the videos that go out are more of like a hip restaurant that's going in, or something to do in the area. And then we always have like a market update and then a few featured properties at the bottom. But it is more about community than it is about real estate.
Awesome. Jessica, thoughts on that pipeline? What tech are you using? And Compass offers you a lot of that. Are you using anything that's non?
I do use some of it. I don't get it. Again, I think Spring and I might be a little bit opposite in the tech world, where if I can outsource anything tech related, I do. And I want everything automated. I know it is automated, but I don't even want to think about it. Just like, this is what I want to happen, make it happen. So yes, there's okay. Yeah. So definitely e-newsletters go out monthly. I mean, you just set up your basic business plan and e-newsletters go out every month. HomeBot, we kind of already touched on. The Compass tool, it says likely to move. Definitely are looking at that on a weekly basis. For me, what I look at every single day is outside of Compass at the moment, my CRM, I use Referral Maker by Brian Buffini. I have since 2014. Everything is there. That's kind of like our Bible to start the day. What's important now, going through our under contract, active potential leads. And then we have reminders that come up every day. Who needs to be called? Whose birthday is it? What's a 1-year anniversary? Then admin is getting out those cards. I'm making calls. So those are kind of the tech things that I use. I love our Compass app. If I see a new listing, then I can send it. It's very user friendly. So I love our Compass app. What else? And then for me on social media and that kind of tech, or however you want to categorize that, I've outsourced that to a marketing director who runs the analytics of our ads, the listings that we boost, we post, we target. I have someone else doing that and then sending me analytics every week as to what it's going that I can share with the client.
Yeah, you guys are bringing up a lot of future topics for our connects here, and so analytics over social marketing, digital marketing. But we'll be bringing that, especially as Google starts to up their game on this. But both of you guys have actually mentioned a lot about this kind of let's get away from the email as a tool, but CRM is your primary engagement tool. You wake up, look at your CRM. How are you organizing your guys' funnel, your client list, spheres? What does that look like to you? Maybe Spring, start with you.
Yeah, so we use a lot of tags. So I use Boomtown currently. So when somebody comes in the system as an SOI, they're obviously tagged as an SOI in there. They're tagged as like what level they're at, of if they're an A, B, C. And the category for us is just like, how comfortable are we of having that relationship? So like an A is like, I could call Jessica and be like, hey girl, I have this house. Can you help me here? Or, hey, I need to, whatever, that you're comfortable with. B is somebody you're hoping to get to. A, you know them, but you're just not like, I'm not going to call them up in a panic or whatever, you know? And then C is somebody who's like, yeah, I know them. And then D is pretty much dead, which is, they're just the people in there. So that's how we do our SOI. But when a lead comes in on the funnels, they're categorized by their lead source. So how they came in, and then it will come in with the notes, anything applicable about them. And then we categorize ours based off of their timeframes. So if they're categorized as new, and this is for our SOI as well. So if they're new, means that we have not talked to them at all, and we're trying to establish what their timeframe and relationship is. But it means that we haven't even made the phone call or sent the text. I shouldn't have anybody new in our system. Qualify means that we've attempted to reach them, but we have no idea, like time frame, whatnot. We're trying to qualify their motivation, all of that kind of stuff. Somebody can stay in to qualify for 14 days. After 14 days, we're going to move them to an archive because we weren't able to reach them. We attempt them up to 14 times in those 14 days, whether it's a call or a text or whatever, because they have raised their hand asking for property information. So we're wanting to know why and their motivation. Once we've gotten a hold of them, and let's say that they're that they're going to transact within 30 days, that means that they're on an e-alert, and we're communicating with them. We're actively working with them, and we're communicating with them once a week minimum. If they're a nurture, it means they're going to transact within from 30 to 90 days. And it means we're in communication with them twice a month at least. They're on an ELR and we're nurturing that relationship. And then a watch is somebody who's going to transact 6 months from 90 days to 6 months. And it's once a month on an ELR. We're watching their activities. We can see in our CRM, just the same as all of you guys that have CRMs, like their activity levels, when they're online, what properties they're looking at, where they're viewing them from, how many times they've looked at it. So we will go in and obviously watch that section and send texts. They're like, hey, this home looks like it could be of interest. You want to preview it and just drum it up. But that's pretty much the sequence. And then everybody else is archived. So we run it that we want our agents to have 100 people in their active pipeline at a time, that they're nurturing that relationship, having the conversations, and then everybody is in an archive and they can still see their activities. They're just not actively having to follow up with them. And that's a really long answer. Sorry, Nobu, but that's how we do it.
Yeah, but long story short, you're really prioritizing your systems and processes based on the priority and behavior of these folks in your funnel. Yeah, that's amazing. What are you using for that?
So I use Boomtown right now, but I mean, there's a lot of great CRMs out there. You can use Chime, there's Sierra. So if you're not a large team, there's cheaper options. Yes, I always teach the agents there's a difference between a suspect and a prospect. And just because they expressed interest one time or 2 times does not mean that there's somebody you focus on today. So who are you going to focus on today? We also will have them have their active pipeline of who they're focusing on, their top 10 and who they're going to get under contract that week. And that's a whole nother topic, but we have that dialed in CSU. So
yeah, and we'll talk about CSU in a second, because I love nerding out with you on CSU with that stuff. But prioritizing based on on your clients and customers' priority levels is amazing. Every CRM can do this. And I think that's the thing that a lot of folks don't realize, whether you're using an off-the-shelf Chime, you mentioned, is an add-on to Gmail and Outlook. You can watch and see what they're reading, see what they're clicking on, and judge from there what you should be doing to prioritize based on what they're clicking on. That's awesome. You're such a nerd, Spring. I love it. Jessica, thoughts? How are you?
Well, I think I would go back again a little bit, not to push back, but to give the other side of this. And I think, again, this is where agents get held up. This is the nerd part of it, or the side of it, the CRM part of it. Even if I think some people, maybe even on this call or a newer agent, may say, oh God, how does that work? And how would I do that? And that seems overwhelming. And then they just never do anything. So you can start with the simplest thing. Even if you go to core coaching, everyone in core coaching makes $1 million a year. Guess what they track on? A piece of paper called their lead tracker. And it's a piece of paper. Now, everybody can do it a different way. I'm just saying, the point is not letting those leads fall through the cracks. So back to speed to lead, even if it's a referral, speed to lead matters, because if you call them back, they found somebody else's cousin who did call them back that day. So speed to lead for sure. And then tracking it, wherever you're going to track it, in any kind of system, a CRM, if you have to start with a piece of paper, just follow up with those people every single day. And find a way to do it, whether it's a call, a text, an email. Again, just kind of to reiterate with what Spring just said, you stay in contact with those people. To me, a lead is like gold, because I've never, again, back to I've never paid for a lead. I'm not letting it fall through the crack, because to me, it's very, very valuable. And I'm going to do everything I can. And I have a very high conversion rate, because I won't let those fall through the cracks, and I will stay in touch with them.
Yeah, it's that kind of upper level, treat them like gold once they're in your system kind of thing. That's very sphere marketing, but and really top of mind when it comes to
both ways. I think you can do it both ways,
yeah.
And that's where people need to find what's going to work for them. But definitely track it.
Yeah, you can't shotgun the internet, right? You can't shotgun your email list. That's not a CRM, right? So it's really analyzing it in some way to ensure that, hey, what you're offering is matching what these folks are actually wanting in their content and in their outreach from you. It's a really good way to think about things. How do you guys measure ROI? So whether it's your CRM, whether it's your marketing, Spring, I know you do a lot of people like, well, I don't want to spend money shotgunning my neighborhood with just listed postcards. They don't get an ROI on that, and they don't know what ROI means. how do you measure ROI, Spring? Because you're spending a lot of money on stuff, but very tactically, right? How do you measure that?
So I have been that agent that just threw it at the wall and was hope that it worked and all that stuff. So I've been there, done that. But so what we use a software. It's called Sisu, sisu.co. It is how we measure our business. So the activities that we're doing, but the back end of it syncs with my CRM. And every lead that comes in from the lead sources, it will take the lead source, how many leads came in, and then it will sync with my under contracts and my closed from that lead source. And we put in our expense and it will generate the ROI report. So I can see exactly the ROI coming from everything that we've done, and it breaks down per agent. So I can see so we run it, that some agents might be on a Zillow lead because they're more expensive and they can convert them. So those are the agents that are going to get those leads. There's some that are very heavy SOI. So we're going to go help them do their client appreciation parties or whatnot. And so we run it based off of understanding the cost, the conversion, and then we'll put it towards those different agents. It's 100% just automated through Sisu, and that's how we make our decisions. Now, I will tell you, you can't do something for a couple of months and then pull the plug. Things take time to work. So I will always commit a 6-month ad spend budget to see if I'm going to get the results before I'll pull the plug. The other thing is that I always start somewhere that I'm comfortable with. So there's been a few times that we were like, yeah, let's just go for it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what were we thinking? Because we've lost our money on some direct mail pieces and stuff. So I would say if you're going to do a farm or anything, start small and then get the results. I think Gary Killer talks about this, red light, green light, that play green light and then red light it, meaning with your expenses. Just don't go crazy. If you have the money, go make it happen. If not, pull it back.
I'm not in Spring. We know each other for a while, and this is before I actually knew that you were using Sisu. But very few tech really impresses me. Sisu is one of the things that does. So it's really good stuff, folks. Check it out. It's a little more on the expensive side if you're kind of especially a newer agent, but it's well worth it if you want to start really diving deep into ROI and what you're actually getting for your money and your systems and your processes that are out there. It's really good tech. Finally, we got a question, and folks, we have about 5 minutes for these questions. Julie Constance is asking, so just listed, just sold. Do you do these type of cards? How do you, and maybe this is for both of you, just listed, just sold, how are you using maybe kind of old school mail in your kind of next generation farming techniques? Jessica, you want to start?
Sure. I do utilize just listed and just sold cards. I'm reevaluating that, but I do, that is part of what I offer at this point. So maybe to the 200 surrounding homes, a just listed or just sold, probably not both in this market, just because things are moving so quickly. And then from a farming standpoint, I pick a farm where I'm already kind of I farm to the area that I live in. Because I do some other ads there. So it's almost like, oh, I see you here, I see you here. And perception becomes somewhat reality. So I do a little bit of farming, but I don't have a massive 2,500, 5,000 a month. I have a smaller, more curated farm that I do in the area that I live. And I don't farm outside of that.
Awesome. Sprague, from your kind of agent perspective, how do you advise this to your agents who I want to start listing at a just sold card as well? How do you integrate that into your lead gen scheme, your lead curation scheme?
Yeah, so we don't do them currently. I have done them. My issue with direct mail, just listed, just sold, all of that is you have to be consistent. So I'm a fan of if you want to do it, but you have to send it to, just sending it to your neighborhood that you just listed and just sold one time is not going to do anything. So if you're going to do a just listed or just sold, then you've got to have it go to your SOI and your sphere that you're hitting them over and over, like, wow, Jessica's selling a ton of real estate. This is cool, And then somewhat to that neighborhood, if that's where you want to do it. But I just think there has to be a bigger plan. If I were to do a just listed, just sold, I would make sure I'm only doing them in an area that I'm farming, that I have a big enough presence that I'm hitting them with other direct mail besides the just listed and just sold. And I'm wanting to build my name and brand there.
Really good point. It's the just listed, just sold adds on to the existing consistent high quality outreach that you may have. Jessica, thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny that I just said I was rethinking that, because I was like, oh wait, I just went on a listing appointment yesterday and they had all my just listed, or the cards would be like, I called you because I got the card. So, I mean, again, I think it's all about what is the end goal? What is the strategy? Who are you focusing on? And where does that fit into your overall business plan? I think they definitely can work, and I have utilized them. And I've also been very, very consistent in the areas that I've sent them.
Yeah, consistency is key. Mm-hmm. So we got a couple of minutes left. Folks, if you have any more questions there from Zoom Land, definitely put them in there. But maybe, next couple of minutes to kind of end this is what are you looking at for next year? Anything different you're going to do? Is there anything that's on your radar that you might act on next year as the market kind of stabilizes? The market will stabilize, but the prices are going to be still outlandish, right? Mm-hmm. So Spring, what are you thinking about doing next year that maybe takes you out of your comfort zone that you may not have tried before, or are you doubling down on?
Yeah, we're doubling down. So I've been spending about the last month going through with my vendor partners from Opcity and Rise and Zillow, and just looking at conversion ratios and where I'm spending and where I can add. Same with we're doubling down on our ISA department, our lead spend. We're actually changing CRMs, which is a hot mess right now, only because we have hundreds of thousands of people in our CRM. But I need a little bit more transparency around the ISA. So our biggest thing of what we're doing is we have all of our systems, our processes. I got the who's of my director of ops and everything. So we're expanding. I just opened an office in Salt Lake City proper. And we're going to bring on 20 to 30 additional agents, and then we're going to move throughout the state of Utah. So that's kind of my big, hairy, audacious goal, and I'm excited for it.
That's awesome. Spend when other people aren't, right? Yeah. You mentioned something interesting too, like you're analyzing your partnerships as well. What kind of standards do you expect your partners? We have a lot of mortgage people, title people here, closing gift folks here. What expectations do you set? Are you setting for them, for your clients?
Yeah. So for my actual partners, I'm very loyal. I've used the same people for years and years and years. And so my expectation, number one, is just a high level quality of service. I do not want a issue in lending. I don't want to have that call or whatnot. So that's number one. But from there on out, my lender partner is a true lender partner. So if there's something I want to do on an ad spend or an event or whatnot, we'll do it together. I'll go to him and just say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Here's the ROI. So this is the key for all of you agents that want vendor partnerships, is it has to work and it has to be a value to them. And if it can grow their business and can grow yours, then awesome. But you can't go to them and expect for them to want to pay for things if you're not sending them the business. And also the loyalty component is massive. We set that expectation of, so for me, let's say I have a client that is already pre-approved. I'm okay with that. Whatever is good for the client is good for us. But I will say, hey, we have our lender has a meet or beat policy. Do you want to see if we can save you any money? And 100% of the time, nobody's going to tell you no. And so then we have them sent over to the lender. And if they choose to work with them and he can save them money, great. Same with our title. So our title, we can direct title, it's split. The buyer picks theirs, the seller picks theirs. I know it's not like that in every state. And so we have our same title company. It just makes it work. We have a standard, and then same with our vendors. So I would just say for the people that are on here that are vendors, the way that people have gotten in business with me is actually got in business with me a long time ago and have just created that value and been an asset. And I would just tell you to go find, even if you have to start from being a brand new agent, going to the newbies, getting a few deals. And those of you that are looking for a vendor partner, come to them with a plan and come to them with how it's going to benefit them, and that it can be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Very cool. Jessica, thoughts? What are you doing next year?
Ditto,
What are your standards for partners?
Ditto to everything. Like that ditto on the vendors, loyalty, all that. It's like over promise, over deliver. If there's an issue, get it resolved. It's a reflection of me. I reflect well on you. So it's just a partnership that I've built over years, and we all know what everyone expects, and that's how things get done and done. Next year, I start crying around December 15th that I have to start over. Well, a few tears are forming now. Just kidding. I think it's exciting. I think it will hopefully have more inventory. I love listings, so hopefully we'll have more listings out there. Hoping to bring on maybe some more admin help, showing agent. We're bringing out a buyer's agent, another one. So making, delegating more, having more fun, getting back to events. That's where we find the highest, or I find the highest ROI is events or charities. And I'm headed back to the vendor. I'm headed to El Salvador next Friday, a week from today, to build homes for families in need with my team and also with my lender. So, creating memories, doing things that are fun. That's fun and exciting, but it still is real estate related, kind of, right? And giving back. So, yeah.
Give Back Home is amazing, by the way. They're an amazing group of people. I've known those guys for a while, too. I wish we could do some enterprise stuff with them at the national level. I tried, but check it out, folks, if you want to see what giving back at enterprise level looks like. If you want to go and do some good in other parts of the country, or other parts of the world, it's a great way to do it. Well, Spring, Jessica, this has been amazing. Oh, Spring, real quickly, what are you switching your CRM to?
I'm going to go to Sierra Interactive.
Wow, that's kind of old school. Sierra Interactive, huh?
Next thing you know, she'll be back to Buffini.
It's interesting because who runs my ad campaigns does a lot of them for them, and the transparency, and then same with the AI for the text spot. The other option was to do Follow Up Boss with YLOPO, but my lead conversion is much higher without that. Chime was an option as well, but with who our partners with, it just makes sense. So that's where we're going.
Awesome. Well, hey, Spring, if you're cool, that we will send out information for your event you're putting in. Are you cool with that? Or is it kind of invite only?
Well, it is an invite. So the one that I'm doing in October is actually a 2-day, is actually sponsored with Sisu. I'll put it in, I'll put a discount code. It's truly, if you're wanting to scale and grow a team, the one in October. I am doing one in Vegas, super short notice, next on the 27th. It's a 1-day. We've got the founder of Curator speaking, the owner of Rockerbox, which is lead conversion. We've got Sisu that will be there, and then top agents from across the country are going to be on panels. That one I can comp your tickets, and you can come if you want. But if I give you
that ahead of Inman?
That one is not Inman. So it is next. It is in 2 weeks. I am going to be at Inman. I'm going to be doing the Brand Wars at the Red Rock before Inman. So I'd love to see any of you guys there, and then I will be at Inman as well. So, yeah. Awesome.
Spring, Jessica, thank you guys so much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation. This is going to be recorded. If you guys are cool with that, put on our DMARealtors.com back end, and those of you guys here, please stick around for the networking. Spring, Jessica, if you want to stick around as well, you're welcome to. But thank you guys so much for your time. It's been an amazing hour talking nerd stuff with you guys. Thank you guys so much. It's been amazing.
Nice to meet you.
Me too.
You too. Julie, back to you.
Actually, I think it's back to me. Well, thank you so much, Jessica and Spring. This was awesome. I'm sure that the realtors really got a lot of value out of that conversation, and so did the industry partners. And I appreciate you emphasizing the importance of vendor relationships in your conversation. We have a few events coming up that I want to highlight. Next Tuesday, the 21st at 9 a.m., we have our new agent and industry partner meet and mastermind. And these events have been awesome. I really encourage you to come if you can. Julie has just secured a great speaker for that event next Tuesday. We do need you to register ahead of time on the DMAR website so Julie knows how much coffee to have ready. We have the Rpac Fundraiser coming up on Thursday, September the 23rd at Top Golf. So you can register for that also through the DMAR website. The inaugural is coming up soon. On September 30th, we'll be celebrating Milford Adams' installation as the new chairman of the board. There's going to be a DJ and a lot of fun going on that night, so please attend that event. And last but not least, we have Wired, Women in Real Estate Denver, coming up on October the 13th at the Cable Center. And today is the last day to register to get the early bird discount. And I actually just did that this morning. So I think now we are going to throw everybody into breakout rooms. If you want to stick around and network for a little while, we'd love to